Let's talk a little Florida Gator recruiting because the Gators and the Longhorns, they meet up in Gainesville this weekend. And this game carries a lot of weight. Maybe not the way that we felt it would before the season, but we got two teams right now on the precipice of possibly going into some danger zones in the season right now. But both teams have a way to get back on track, and it starts this weekend. So we're going to talk about how this impacts recruiting. I got Corey Bender from Gators Online, and we're going to break it all down. But first, Gator fans, do me a favor, hit subscribe. We are here talking Florida Gator recruiting all season long. Jump on board, hit subscribe. All right, let's bring in Corey Bender. And there's a weird feel in Gainesville right now, but it is still a big recruiting weekend with the Longhorns coming to town. Any flip targets going to be on campus? Mainly I'm talking James Johnson, Vodney Cleveland, two defensive line prospects from the state of Florida that are committed to Texas. Do we expect them to be in the swamp Saturday?
It'll be interesting, Josh, because like you said, interior defensive line, that's a huge priority for Florida this cycle. And those are two guys at the very top of the wish list. But the thing is, Florida and a lot of other schools, they're not big on hosting a lot of these kids hosting kids who are committed to the school they're playing on the field. I mean, we saw that. I mean, they weren't necessarily committed last year, but when Florida played Miami in week one, you had guys like DJ Pickett, who had a cousin on Miami's roster. And you saw some of the recruits in the front row kind of like talking to the Miami players as they're coming off the field. It ended up being like a bad scene in Gainesville where even Florida staff members were trying to clear the way and not have the kids talk to Miami. Miami players were recruiting them in the front row. So since then, Florida and a lot of these other schools are trying not to host these kids that are committed to the schools they're playing on the field. So, but in Florida, I mean, they're in an interesting position, right? James Johnson, 5-star, number one D lineman in the country. This might be your only shot at hosting them. I mean, defensive line is a major priority. I mean, Caleb Banks is obviously going to the NFL after this season. It's a young group. They need to hit in the recruiting trail and make some big additions. Kendall Gerbil is in the class, but he's obviously sidelined all of his senior year due to injury, which makes, I think, interior D-line even more important. So James Johnson, as of right now, he's not expected, although he has said he wants to visit Florida before the end of the season. And, if Florida loses to Texas this weekend, will Billy Napier be the coach on Monday? So if you're Florida, maybe you kind of stretch it out a little bit and you say, hey, let's host these guys. It might be our only shot. And Vodney Cleveland, he's another one that he's told me in recent weeks he doesn't plan on visiting Florida or any other schools. But, as you know, Josh, in recruiting, that could quickly change. His recruitments, just like James Johnson, was heavily driven by NIL, revenue sharing, and stuff like that. And it's one of those things, even with Vodney Cleveland, Florida was leading for much of 2025 before he took that OV to Texas. So as of right now, we don't have them on the visitors list, but that could quickly change by Friday. And if Florida budgets and says, hey, even though they are committed to the school we're playing, this might be our only shot at getting them at campus. So, hey, let's bring them on campus this weekend.
Yeah, and my take is bring them in. If you talk risk versus reward, right? Like, what's 100%. The risk? The Gators get beat by Texas? Well, they're already committed to Texas, so, whatever. But the reward, if Texas loses at home to the Florida Gators, then, maybe these guys do start looking at things differently. That would be quite the experience in Gainesville if Gators are able to pull that off. So we'll see what happens there. But, those are intriguing names. So
I guess the other worry, too, is of them recruiting other kids to Texas while they're there. I know that's happened with other situations. Those two don't seem like the type that would do that. I think they have much respect for Florida. But I think that's the other worry. Hey, if they come to Florida, Texas is winning pretty big in the first half. Jarrell McCoy, guys like that who are sitting maybe in the stands, are you kind of whispering? You might not see them publicly recruiting, but you just never know off to the side when you're sitting with them in the stands. So that's also the other worry.
You do make a good point. All right, so that being said, how many Florida commits are expected to make the trip? Because early in the season, it did seem like Florida was trying to load up on getting their commitments on campus. But now, you already got some guys taking visits elsewhere. CJ Hester, Hezzy Kent, they were on different campuses last weekend. So does Florida try to get their top commits back to campus this weekend? Hey, football fans, whether you're cheering on the Kentucky Wildcats or the Georgia Bulldogs on Saturday, October 4th in Athens, Georgia, make sure to drop by the Whataburger food truck during your tailgate. Get ready to bring home the W early with a hot and fresh Whataburger in your hand. And no matter who comes out on top, when you take your team to Whataburger, you know you'll feel like a winner with food made fresh and hot every time, 24/7. We'll see you at the game, and we'll see you at Whataburger.
Yeah, no, definitely, Josh. I think most of them will be there. Like Hezzy Kent, like you said, CJ Hester. I know Hester's expected. CJ Brana, another cornerback in the class, he's expected to be there. You have a lot of the main guys. I mean, Jarrell McCoy has said he's going to go to the game, but I know sometimes his plans change. I mean, he's up in Mississippi, so it kind of he's kind of a wait and see. But as of right now, I mean, you have so many guys from the state of Florida that are in this class. So I think definitely, even if they're kind of looking at Florida and kind of seeing what's going to happen with Gainesville, it's still a big game in their eyes. Florida versus Texas. I think a lot of these kids, regardless of Florida's 1-3 start, I think they're still looking as a great atmosphere and a game that they definitely don't want to miss. I think the other thing, Josh, that I'm looking at too is, Florida State, Miami. I mean, that game for Florida couldn't have happened on a worse weekend, because you have Carson Baker, who's coming to Florida, and obviously Florida State, they're pushing really hard for him. I know Florida State is turning up the heat on CJ Brana, who's expecting Gainesville this weekend, but I know FSU has turned up the heat. So I think if it's not some of these 2026 kids, I think overall just recruits in general, that's obviously the bigger game, I think, especially for kids in the state of Florida. So as of right now, I think most of Florida's commits have said all the right things, and a lot of them aren't really entertaining schools. But guys like Hezzy Kent, though, Florida State keeps sending him graphics all the time. Miami does as well. So I think some of the guys that have kind of been, we've noted at Gators Online as ones to monitor, those are ones that could potentially end up in Tallahassee. I mean, right now, Florida's expecting most of them on campus, but that could quickly change. So that's definitely one of the biggest questions I have going into Saturday is how many of these guys are going to be on campus, or even Georgia has a home game. I believe they play Kentucky at home. You could see some other guys go elsewhere. So we'll be monitoring it up until Friday.
Yeah. All right. So just overall, how much energy do you think that this Billy Napier coaching staff is putting into recruiting this weekend? Or is more of it on – focusing on the job at hand, winning games on the football field? Have you started to see, I don't want to say recruiting slip, but maybe take a back seat to the priority of winning ball games?
Yeah, no, that's a good question, Josh. And I think the main thing is, when Billy Napier came on board, he said, hey, my Army, because he has a huge support staff up in Gainesville. So they have enough guys where a lot of these kids can come to campus. They have enough people to kind of wine and dine these kids and really show them a lot of love, roll out the red carpet during pregame. But when it comes to the actual assistant coaches, it is going to be interesting because I think, as many people know, if Florida loses this game and it's more than 2 touchdowns, in my opinion, I mean, I'd be surprised if Billy Napier is coach next week. Maybe he is, but right now his seat hasn't been hotter than it is right now. So I think right now it's going to be a good mix. I think these assistant coaches know they have to win this game, but Florida does have enough support staff members to really at least show these kids around and make a good impression. And Florida's 2026 class, for the most part, is almost complete as of right now, as far as the guys they have committed. That can obviously change if there is a coaching change. But I think one guy, Isaiah Broughton, he's a kid from Texas, a big nose tackle. He'll be in town. He's committed to UNLV, but Miami, Auburn, Florida, they've all offered. And he's one of those guys that, he's probably the main flip guy for 26 class that'll be in town. And he kind of said, hey, they haven't talked to me much about the stability there, but I'm sure we'll talk about it this weekend. So that's one kid who actually wants to spend time with the staff on Saturday. It's just an unofficial visit to kind of figure out, hey, what's the plan with you guys going forward? So I think right now they have enough support guys to really show these guys around. And I think thankfully for Florida, I mean, most of the time they're going to be in the stands for most of the time anyway, watching the game. But I think if Florida wins after, I mean, I'm sure you'll see the staff swarm these guys and really try to reassure them what's going on. But if Florida does lose, you'll probably see some guys kind of trick off the stand maybe earlier and maybe not speak to the staff. So I think that's one of the glaring questions I have. I think most of the staff members are going to be focusing on the game, but they'll still have enough time to at least show their faces and kind of let these kids know they're wanted.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens either way. We'll be talking about all the recruiting news coming out of Gainesville this weekend. Gator fans, talk to us. How you feeling heading into the weekend? Give us your score prediction for UF versus Texas. Comment section below.